In 1994, Angus and Malcolm Young invited Phil Rudd into several jam sessions, and then eventually in August of 1994, AC/DC rehired Phil Rudd, replacing Chris Slade. When they were working on their next album, the band decided to change their music into more blues rock than hard rock. They had new producers Rick Rubin and Mike Fraser. And the band they called their 13th album Ballbreaker, released on September 26, 1995. The album was not as successful as their previous album was, but still was well received and sold well, selling 2.5 million copies worldwide. The tour lasted from January 12th to November 30th of 1996. A year later, in 1997, the band released a box set called Bonfire, which was live songs and Australian released songs from the Bon Scott era. Then they also had a remaster version of Back in Black. After a long break, AC/DC resumed in late 1999, working on their next album, with the return of their producer George Young, which was the last album he produced. Their 14th album was called Stiff Upper Lip, released on February 28th of 2000. The album was more positive received than Ballbreaker was, but critics claimed they were still lacking on new ideas. The album sold well, selling over 3 million worldwide and peaking at number 7 at the US Billboard. The tour started on August 1st of 2000 and ended in July 8th of 2001. Stiff Upper Lip had great songs like the title song, Meltdown, Can't Stop Rock and Roll, and Come and Get It. However, on September 13th of 2000, there was a famous moment that happened in Phoenix, Arizona, where a man was heckling Angus Young by throwing beer at him. Angus usually don't get angry, but he pointed at the man, but after he threw yet another beer at his guitar, which was plugged in, and beer got on his jacket, he went off stage and confronted him, and the guy was led away by the security guards. However, Angus was still able to continue. The tour was very successful, selling out very frequently throughout the time. And after the tour ended, the band took another break, but also they released a live DVD of their concert in Germany in June of 2001. However, while they were on break in 2002, the band signed a deal with Sony Music, who went on to release their remastered albums. But then a year later, in May of 2003, AC/DC was finally inducted to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and they had a mini tour with the Rolling Stones, performing 4 shows each. And then in 2005, a couple years later, they released what's called the Family Jewels DVD, which contains music videos and live performances throughout the years. And then after a long break in 2006 and 2007, they returned in 2008, working on their 15th album with new producer Brendan O'Brien. The album they called was Black Ice, released on October 17, 2008. The album saw very positive reviews and most consider resemblance to AC/DC's classic sound, selling 8 million copies worldwide and peaked at number 1 in the US Billboard and several other countries. Had great songs like Rock and Roll Train, War Machine, Spoilin' for a Fight, and Stormy Mayday. The tour was one of their most successful tours in their career, grossing more than $441 million, them becoming the 4th highest grossing tour worldwide to date. And as well with the tour, they had many sellout concerts. It began on October 28th of 2008 and ended on June 28th of 2010. After the tour ended, Malcolm Young's health began deteriorating, with him being diagnosed with lung cancer. But this was treated early, and the cancer was removed. In 2009, they released Backtracks, which were a complete collection of songs not available in America, singles that were not released on albums, and the third disc of The Family Jewels, which contains more music videos, live performance, as well as interviews, and with more live performances on CD. In 2011, the band stated that they were not retiring and they were planning another tour and album. But in May of 2012, band leader Malcolm Young announced that they were working on working on their next album, but wouldn't be released till a couple more years. On November 16, 2012, they released their first live album in 20 years, called The Live at River Plate, which they also released a DVD of the same name in May of 2011, both based on the December 4th, 2009 concert at River Plate Stadium. In April of 2014, Malcolm had become seriously ill and is unable to perform or record their next album. Then, on September 24th, 2014, he announced his retirement after being diagnosed with a disease called dementia. And by a year later, in 2015, the dementia got worse that Angus claimed that he couldn't remember any AC/DC songs anymore. Malcolm Young was replaced by his nephew Stevie Young, who helped him in the tour in 1988 while he was recovering from his alcohol addiction. AC/DC continued, and their 16th and final album to date was called Rock or Bust, released on November 28, 2014. The band claimed that Malcolm wrote all the songs in the album. The album was well received by critics and sold far less than what Black Eye sells, only selling 2.8 million copies worldwide, but peaked at number 3 in the US Billboard. Had great songs like the title song, Sweet Candy, Rock the House, and Admission Control. But however, following the album's release, the band began to change very quickly. In early 2015, before the tour started, Phil Rudd was arrested for drug charges and threatening to kill charges. As a result, he was replaced by their other drummer, Chris Slade, that played during the early 90s. During the tour also, in early 2016, Brian Johnson was forced to retire due to hearing problems and can go completely deaf if he does not stop immediately, and he was replaced by Guns N' Roses singer Axl Rose. Johnson's last performance with the band was on February 28, 2016 at Kansas City. And then on July 8th of 2016, bass player Cliff Williams announced his retirement at the conclusion of the tour after losing interest for the other band members leaving. The tour and Williams' last performance was on September 20th, 2016. After the tour, Angus announced that Axl Rose will be the full-time singer, and Angus Young refuses to retire and he is still in good health, that he will continue the band with different musicians. Tragically, on November 18th of 2017, Malcolm Young's dementia got worse and eventually died from the disease on that date. Also, older brother George Young, who produced some of their albums, died on October 22nd of 2017, but the cause of his death was not reported. As of 2019, there are still rumors going around about them working on their new album, and they say that Brian Johnson, Cliff Williams, and Phil Rudd will be rejoining AC/DC, but it wasn't confirmed by the band. As of today, there are still rumors going around about their future and what's going to happen. And guys, that's AC/DC. Throughout AC/DC's history, they've been nominated for 24 awards and they have won 12 awards. They have sold over 200 million records during their time and become one of the most successful rock bands in history. If you're a hard rock fan or a blues rock fan, I highly recommend them. They have a great style, they have awesome concerts, and they have real colorful lyrics. And as me being actually my favorite band of them, I give them an A+. thank you guys for watching this next series on my band, and I hope you subscribe for my channel so we can do more bands. Thanks for watching, everybody. I'll see you next time.